You're good to go.
Thanks. Good afternoon. Welcome to the 26th Annual Sunflower River Blues and Gospel Festival. Welcome to the Delta Blues Museum, and welcome to our program From the Archives. Today's program is remembering Arthneice Joenes, and we have former members of the Stone Gas Band, Howard Stovall and Terry Big T Williams, with us. This program is made possible by the Mississippi Humanities Council, and it's an independent, nonpartisan, non-political organization funded by the National Endowment for the Humanities and private donations. The Council's primary objective is to shed light, not heat, on the public policy issues of today by examining the larger value questions involved through the use of philosophy, literature, history, and other disciplines in the humanities. And this is the Humanities Council's 40th year, and the Delta Blues Museum's 34th year, and the Humanities Council has generously supported the Delta Blues Museum through our 34 years. So we thank them. We have David Morgan from the Humanities Council in the audience.
And Elena Ugarus.
And Kalena. Welcome to y'all. And we also, they like us to do evaluations, so we will be asking audience members to complete an evaluation at the end of the program. And we're about to cue, we have some video footage for those of you who have not seen Arthneice Joenes perform. Is it Juke Joint Saturday Night?
Yeah, this is from a video we did in 1991 called Juke Joint Saturday Night. We filmed it at a little joint called Margaret's Blue Diamond Lounge, which was over here by the tracks off of 4th Street or MLK. It's no longer there. The building actually structurally collapsed like around 2001 or so, I think. But something
is still there.
I thought the roof caved in.
No.
Oh, it's okay. So maybe
it's another joint.
No, Smitty's.
Oh, is it?
It's C-Dub.
Oh, okay. I was looked over at it driving in.
Right.
Okay, that is. We brought a crew in and filmed the Stone Gas Band and Big Jack Johnson that night, and so this is we thought this was the song we opened every show. We played our theme song, which is instrumental. Then we would always go into Annie Mae, which was one of Arthneice's earliest compositions, and was a great song that showcased him and his vocals. So it's kind of an introduction to Arthneice Joenes and the Stone Gas Band. We queued up the video of Annie Mae. We hope. We're reading with some rudimentary equipment. Did he go back to the pause point?
While you wear your hands over we put it together. So we like to do it for tonight. Is everybody feeling all right tonight? I said, is everybody feeling all right tonight? Why
we may come back and play what's next. And really, we will come back because one of the great things about Arthneice was his ability to talk to the crowd and just the way words just flowed off his tongue. He was a real kind of poet and philosopher, and was great to just sort of have this tidal wave of words come out at the beginning of a gig that could really get an audience set. Where do we want to start? Do you want to get this in?
Well, one thing, the Delta Blues Museum has an arts and education program that happens in this classroom, and it actually has its roots in Lambert, where Mr. Johnny Billington began teaching people, youth, how to play blues music. And the Stone Gas Band developed, didn't it consist of everyone who learned from Mr. Johnny?
Yeah, all the musicians that came into the Stone Gas Band were students of Mr. Johnny.
And this year we lost both Arthneice and Mr. Johnny, so it's particularly relevant to be having this.
How did you start out with Mr. Johnny?
I met Arthneice way before I met Mr. Johnny. And Arthneice he was just settling down about trying to get his chops back up with his harmonica and whatever. And I started hanging out at his house, and I used to show up at his house with my guitar tuned in cross Spanish, and he would take it and retune it to E440 and give it back to me. I said, now let's play. You know what I mean? And we would play unbelievable hours would go by, and we just head full of music. And Mr. Johnny moved maybe a block, actually 2 houses down from him.
Oh, wow.
And we both walked by and heard Mr. Johnny practicing on his guitar. And Mr. Johnny, after that, it was just a lock-up situation to where we all three would lose hours, countless hours about music, and just all of a sudden we got Mr. Johnny teaching, telling us to bring it down and play it the way he wanted to play it. And then we got a skip record that's got a big gash in it, and he says, play it the way you hear it right there. And then later on you hear the record again, and you say, that didn't skip. But Mr. Johnny said, well, you skip, and it'll be right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, that was the beginning of me and Arthneice, and then we met Howard later on during our. Mr. Johnny had nailed Howard down. had Howard in the Rivermount Lounge. I had him pinned down.
Bobby Little was playing drums on the scene by that time, and Billy Gibson, who played with us on Tuesday, was coming in from Oxford, harmonica player, and Terry was playing bass, who's filling in on bass. And that band blew up in acrimony and ego, and I looked at Terry. We were actually sitting on amps watching guys fight with each other. Turned to Terry and said, man, does the Stone Gas Band need a keyboard player, because this band is over? And he said, yeah. That was 90, 91, I guess. You guys have been together a while, though.
Yeah. Harville and Dion was coming out along with Mr. Johnny too. And I think when we got them, Mr. Johnny took the drums from Dion and said, you can't play these drums, I got to get somebody else to play them. And Dion said, well, I'll get you another set of drums, but I'm not going to play with you. You know, Mr. Johnny, he replaced him with a kid, probably about 4 years old, and that kid got very good too. Mr. Johnny had some good teaching, but he had his way, of getting his point across.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
We teamed up in '91, and back then there was a lot happening here. It was I call it the pre-Casino Delta. If you look at the list of juke joints that were open in 1991 that are open today, you could start and end with Reds. But back then, I mean, Country Blues Lounge was open for a while, Margaret's, Smitty's.
Exactly.
Apparently someplace called JJ's was open for a while. I was looking at one of our old calendars and it was there, but places kind of came and went. The River Mount was pretty regular.
Sarah's good.
Sarah's.
Casablanca.
You know, in any given
Yeah, you remember Casablanca?
Black Fox.
any given weekend, there'd be 2 or 3 bands playing somewhere around town. And Razor Blade was running around then. It was sometimes with Wesley.
That was the line all coming up.
And all that, you know, all that's kind of changed, and that was actually the reason that Ground Zero got started, is just to make sure that someplace had live music on Saturdays for the folks that came in town. But looking at our calendar back then, we played, you know, just about 2 or 3 times a month minimum, and sometimes 7 or 8 or 10, judging from what. I don't remember running around quite that much.
I don't know. It was getting pretty good.
Yeah. But we played, you know, one of the things, and Billy Gibson said it the other night, is, you know, thanks to Johnny and to getting us started, and really the vision that Arthneice had, and the music direction that Terry brought, we really did, I feel strongly, we created a sound that wasn't based on anything other than ourselves. There were times where we would play a song that somebody knew from a record, and we would all just kind of fill in what we thought was right. It was amazing how many times you'd go back and play the record and find out that what we're playing was actually what was on the record, but we just kind of came to it from our own direction. And I think we had a real kind of identifiable sound that consisted of Arthneice's heart, his words and voice, and Terry's guitar, and then the rest of us were just building a big brick wall of rhythm that both of those guys could bounce off of and lean on. But, you know, we did a sizable amount of original material, which for kind of bar bands playing around, I don't know that anybody else had the wealth of original material that we did, because Arthneice kept coming up with great songs that didn't all sound the same. You know, we built things that had different sounds and different tonalities and different.
I think the style was given to us by Arthneice. His harmonica there's a different style in harmonica players around the world. All the harmonica players don't sound the same. He can make a sound on his harp that nobody else could. You can name any harmonica player you want. They got a style that would signify who they are. You know what I mean? When you hear Arthneice's harp, you automatically know that's Arthneice. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Our friend Billy filled in Tuesday night. We got back together and kind of paid tribute to Arthneice and his music. And we got our friend Billy Gibson, who had been in Johnny's program way back, to come down, and I asked him if he would be willing to come down. He's a busy guy, tours in Europe. I mean, he gets around a lot. And I asked him if he would be willing to come down here and participate in this, and he immediately said yes. And it was because he had been here and had been through the program and knew Arthneice for years and knew what kind of original musician he was. So we sent Billy our recordings, and he, as he said, he lived with Arthneice for a week. And there were times during that night where he hit licks that so obviously were Arthneice's, that there were, especially when we hit the first song, we played the theme song, and he played Arthneice's melody from that. That really hit me, but there were times where it really kind of threw me back on my heels. He would just hit him so perfectly, and that's a tribute to Billy and his ability to listen and hear the nuance. But it also brought back how individual Arthneice's style was, because Billy hit it some, but Arthneice hit it all the time. You know, it was his sound.
Exactly.
Well, why don't you want to play one more, and I haven't talked about it. I think this is where he kind of does a nice intro and another one of our originals.
Yeah. Is everybody all right? It's Saturday. yes, man. Y'all got a show laid out for you. We're going to be skipping and drinking while we're here, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be whining and dining and music climbing for your satisfaction. We're going to be playing some blues for you. We're going to slow down a little bit for you. So, yes, man.
First time I've heard that in a long time. It's good. We intended to do that song Tuesday night, but Dion was assigned the singing duties and he chickened out, so we never could get him to sing it. What else can we talk?
Well, Arthneice had a daytime life as a construction worker. Y'all want to talk about that? Like,
you worked for him for a little while, didn't you? He ran you into the ground.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm trying to keep up with him, yeah. But actually, after all my troubled times, I kind of faded out of the picture on that. And trying to come back to it, it just didn't work out, you know. Because everything had kind of moved on
But he laid and finished concrete and ran crews and really built the business. He worked with White Construction to start out and kind of learned the trade there, and then ended up going out on his own, building a business. He had, government contracts, local government contracts, private enterprise, construction. And he was always in the best shape of any of us. He was, he was always strong and lean and could carry and make us and he could work a full day and come out and play at night. Set an example for all of us. We considered him the old man in the group. Terry and I are about the same age. And now we're, both older than he was when we were doing all this running around and playing. And a little heavier too. Heavier than he ever was.
I don't know. That was a few pounds ago.
Well, did y'all rehearse or just, how did you?
A lot of times, Mr. Johnny wouldn't have it. Even though he wasn't a part of our band, he would always come around and say, all right, you guys need to practice. And that was, he didn't care if he was a part of the band or what, he would just say, practice.
But we played so much that we worked up a lot of material just on stage. Arthneice would kind of throw a new song at us and describe what he wanted out of it. And we spoke our own. It was amazing when you play that much, and it's something I've never experienced since. But you could so change the direction of the music by changing a little piece of it, because we all knew each other's playing so well that you could signal a new direction by the smallest of cues, and you could also describe what you wanted in a particular way, and we all knew what it was talking about. And Gas would come up with something new and say, hey, do this, make it sound like this. And by the second or third time, we kind of would have something together, and it very rarely sounded like one of our other songs. We continued to try to find ways, different keys, different tempos, different intros. It was all blues, but we could make it sound different. But they're probably looking at the list of originals that we had over here. Probably half of them got worked up on stage, I feel like.
Yeah, in our file here, we've got a set list, and there are 15 originals listed, and then artists as diverse as Wilson Pickett, Howlin' Wolf, Lattimore, Willie Dixon, Bobby Rush. Not too many people cover Bobby Rush, and some others we forgot to put down.
What was interesting to me in playing in Clarksdale is you heard a lot more Little Milton than you heard B.B. King. And back then, that Clarksdale sound was really, it was Milton, it was Bobby Bland, it was Tyrone Davis, it was, what a lot of people call soul blues.
Well, the most of the places that we perform, and the other musicians that was on the other side looking in, they was listening to that harmonica and the style that it brought, just like Muddy and Lil Junior. The two of us came together like hand in hand. yeah, the sound and style. And when we picked Dion and Harvell up, their sound was coming up out of Mr. Johnny too.
Yeah.
So it automatically blended with what we were doing. Yeah. So Mr. Johnny was involved in and giving us our sound and our style.
That's the truth. I mean, really, at that time, it's hard to, you couldn't take any musician that was playing out of Clarksdale at that time and not draw some line back to Mr. Johnny. I mean, I hate to, we can't, I know it's hard to talk about any influential musician in this area without his name coming up. He was important to everybody's development. Always called Arthneice Arthur. Never heard him, hardly heard him call him anything else.
And a lot of those guys are playing the festival this weekend or have left Clarksdale, and like Lee Williams is over in Arkansas now, doing something.
Yeah, he's also one of Mr. Johnny's top drummers. Mr. Johnny put out a lot of good drummers for some odd reason. That timing thing, they had to get it so superb with Mr. Johnny. So when they leave Mr. Johnny, they can play with just about anybody they want.
our guys, we got together for the first time in about 15 years last Tuesday, and Dion is, where's Dion? Kansas City?
Yeah, Kansas City.
Harvell is still recording and doing some stuff around Lambert. Terry's toured around the country with different musicians and kind of has his own thing going on. Picking up keyboard Tuesday was the first time I'd done it in a long time, because these were the guys I wanted to play with, and when we weren't playing together, it was just too much work to play with anybody else. Had to pay too much attention. Easier with us.
You played a little bit with Danny Mac, right?
I did. And Terry was a guest of the governor for a few years, and so was unavailable to tour with the band, and we had to go through a series of guitar players. Daddy Mac was one that stepped up when we Shine was the first guy to step up, Andrew Shine Turner, and Shine stepped in. Shine can't lead the band like Terry, and Terry was always the musical director, and so without Terry the band kind of lost some of its power, because Arthneice was the creative vision and Terry was kind of the person that could tear that down technically and guide us into making the individual pieces of it. And Shine stepped in, and we kept hitting it, but we had a gig booked at Proud Larry's in Oxford, which was important for us. And about 6 o'clock that night, Shine bailed on the gig, and we had to find a guitar player. And at that time I was living in Memphis, so I think it's probably the gig there's a Proud Larry's gig on one of these, maybe it's on that other skid. And so I was panicked because we didn't have a guitar player, and we were going to Proud Larry's. It was going to be this big gig. It was going to be a disaster. And so I called Shine and said, some guys in Memphis. And so he sent me to Earl the Pearl. Earl the Pearl said no, but he gave me Daddy Mac's number. And I called Mac. Mac stepped up to do it. And I remember driving up to his house. He came out, hat, a suit. The first thing he said to me was, "Now, nobody going to be drunk on stage, are they?" I said, "No, we're going to get along just fine." And he stepped up. We introduced him to the band in Oxford. He stepped up on stage. "Hey, I'm Mac, I'm Gas, I'm Dion, I'm Harvell." And we proceeded to kill it. It was a great night. He was able to follow along on all our original stuff. He had his own show. He was like, "Mr. Johnny, break it down." He got us down low. And Mac was kind of in and out for a while. And then when we just kind of finally lost momentum, I actually started, when people would call for our band, help Mac get a group together, and ended up actually traveling to France with Mac. So he kind of came up behind the Stone Gas Band once we sort of lost our cohesiveness. But he stepped in while Terry was back, and when Terry came back, we were all kind of starting to spread out. I always kept talking about getting back together, and we never seemed to find the time to do it.
Well, Dion moved away, quite a few of them stressed out. It's kind of hard to bring those same pieces back together.
Yeah. And you get older, and suddenly the energy for the Tuesday night 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. gig for $30 a man, not quite as enticing as it was when you were 30.
Yeah. Just thinking about all those times, I think I said to Arthneice once that you gave me these blues. I want to give them back. He said, "A deal is a deal." That's that on there. You got the blues.
He was off the field. I think I could. Well, I know for me, he was a guy that looked at the world in his own way. And when I say that he opened my eyes to things that had been under my nose my entire life, it really is the case. That he had a way of looking at things, a way of approaching people, of categorizing people, of viewing people and what they do, that was really unique. And I think that perspective came through in his music and his lyrics and his ideas. But his mastery of words, just times when you'd be riding around and he would say something that literally just made you stop in mid-sentence and think. And I know that you guys spent so much time together, and I know that he rocked you out a few times.
The conversation was all the time, and I can hear them over and over a lot of times, because they stayed with you even after you walked away from it.
Yep. That's the, that's the part that, doesn't come through on a recording or a video or anything. It's that sort of backstage time. And when you're covering the miles like we did, and there were a lot of times that, it would be three of us on the bench seat of my truck, covering a lot of words and a lot of miles. But it was a really special time then. And then you guys kept performing as a duo on the festival.
Yeah, we had started to doing that. He had said that he wanted to come back to the scene for a minute, and that he didn't mind doing it on an acoustic basis. And we did it for how many years? How many years we done it for, Reed? That acoustic stage?
You did it with him a couple of times, but he did it with several other people too.
Oh, okay.
And we've got an exhibit in the gallery of the 26 years of the Sunflower posters, and it looks like Arthneice was on the festival pretty much from 1989 forward, either with the Stone Gas, either with the Stone Gas Band or on the acoustic stage, just from looking at the posters.
Well, you should be.
But do y'all have any questions in the audience? Did Razor Blake leave?
Where did Arthneice get his name, and how did y'all come up with the band name?
I don't know about his name. What was that, Murray?
Well, when I met him, he always thought of himself as the Gas. And we kind of played with his name, the Gas. And
I think Marie may have the real story.
Okay, Gas Man came from after he came off of being an alcoholic and drunk in the street. The people gave him that name, and it just stuck to him. That's where Gas come from. Because he used to walk around bothering everybody, messing with everybody, and he stinked.
Well, he turned it around.
He did.
Turned it around and made it.
They did. So that's where the name came from.
That's something.
But we took that to play with, so we came up with Stone Gas. Don Cornelius always ended his show with or beginning that it's gonna be a Stone Gas. You know what I mean? So me and Arthneice decided, well, yeah, we'll go with Stone Gas.
When we did that video, we had Big Jack Johnson on it, who was the oil man because he used to drive an oil truck for Rutledge.
Right.
So we had the oil man and the gas man. It sounded like it should have been sponsored by BP or something. Missed out on some money there. It's not too late.
Well, Terry, were you going to play anything? I see you brought your guitar.
Yeah, I had one handy. In case you wanted to tap around with your song.
We have a keyboard.
I don't think the two of us, we don't really have the duo thing worked out. Okay. See if there are any other questions.
All right, we may not have music. Are there any more questions from the audience? All right, well, we thank y'all for coming. We thank our sponsors, and we hope you have a great weekend in Clarksdale. Thanks. Okay, is this yours?
That's my copy.
Okay. I'm gonna put these back in. Oh, would y'all mind filling out an evaluation?
I'm so bad at this. Okay, you ready? If both of you smile.
Sure. Get the microphone out of the way.
Like I said, this is like not my thing. Okay, like, ha ha ha.